So now let's look at question number 45. Statement number 1. Liberalization changed the contours of India's economy. Statement 2. India is today poised to become one of the top economies of the world. Fine, let's look at statement 2 first. India is today poised to become one of the top economies of the world. Well, I'm not going to spend too much time worrying what this is. Poised, let's use the working definition as about to become or about to eventually become. Okay, so it's talking about India. Okay, and India is only about to become one of the top economies of the world. So statement 2 talks about India. Statement 2 talks about the economy of India and how it is going to be the top economy of India. Okay, now statement number 1. Liberalization changed the contours of India's economy. Well, contours, let's write as face or look of India's economy. Okay, just working definition. So liberalization changed the contours of India's economy. Even then, statement number 1 says that it is about India's economy, right? So based on those two statements, I can be sure of the fact that they are talking about similar things. Both the statements are talking about India and India's economy and how something is about to happen with India's economy, right? So based on these points, I can figure out what are not the answers, right? So it cannot be contradict because not opposing ideas, not contrast because we are not talking about different concepts. No. Now the question is whether it is correlate. I think you can see it now. Correlate or coincide. Now, this is why I tell you, let's look at whether it can ever be coincide. Well, what do you mean by coincide? Coincide means when two events, two random events that happen at the same time, when they happen at the same time, then you say they coincide, which means they should not carry a relationship, right? They are two events that are happening at random at the same time, right? Now, do you think that's the case? Because statement 2 made it very clear that India is about to become one of the top economies. And statement number 1 says that liberalization caused a change in the look of India's economy. So, somewhere or the other, you cannot say that they are not related. Statement 2 and statement number 1 are not related, they just happened. Two events happened at random. No. So, therefore, it is not coincidence. Just from the logic, you'll know that it's not coincidence. There is some relation. In other words, they are correlated, and that is the answer. So, what is correlation? Two events that happen and that has two events that are interconnected, that are related. Okay, there is some relationship. So just like the way we did it last time, see, if you look at it chronologically, liberalization happens first, that changes India's economy, and that eventually makes India about to become one of the top economies. So there is a relation between there is a relation between liberalization and the fact that India is about to become the top economy. So statement number 1 and statement number 2 are in fact connected. So the answer has to be C. 45. C is the answer. Clear? Great. Let's look at 46. Interesting question there. Statement number 1. The final outcome can never be predicted incontrovertibly. Statement 2. All outcomes are based on variables that cannot always be fully understood. Okay, this is tricky, right? Okay, fine. Let's read statement 2 again. All outcomes. See, let's look for keywords. All outcomes. We are talking about all outcomes of the world are based on variables that cannot always be fully understood. Okay, so every event has got an outcome. Okay, all these outcomes are based on variables, and these variables cannot always be fully understood. Cannot always be fully understood. Okay, now statement number 1 says the final outcome can never be predicted incontrovertibly. Now that word can be a bit tricky there. It means that to do something undeniably, or just to write it here, say with absolute certainty. Can we write it like this? Absolute certainty. Oops. Absolute certainty. Okay, so you're saying that the final outcome of any event can never, which means cannot be predicted with absolute certainty. So no final outcome of the world can ever be predicted with certainty is saying. So if you think about it, it's a very strong statement. Can we write it like that? It's a very strong statement, right? Saying that something cannot be done. Fine. So a negative is there, but it's still a very strong statement, absolute statement, saying that it cannot be predicted with absolute certainty. And it is about outcomes. Statement 2, all outcomes are based on variables that cannot always be fully understood. That also says that outcomes are based on variables, and these variables cannot always be completely predicted or understood well. Therefore, naturally, you cannot understand it very well, right? So there also stays a connection. There also says that that statement also says that there are variables, right? These variables cannot always be completely predicted, or sorry, completely understood. So from my knowledge here, I understand that they're both talking about outcomes, variables that play a part in the outcome, blah blah blah. Okay, and saying that it cannot be done, right? There is a feeling you're saying that, oh, the outcome cannot always be right, or cannot be done, or cannot be understood. Okay, some sort of a tone. So if you look at it, let me see if I can eliminate some answers here. Fully reinforce the first, I don't know, could be the case. Reinforce the first to an extent, again positive, so let's keep it there. Definitely follows the first. Well, there is no question of what happens first. Is it statement number 1 that happens chronologically first, or statement number 2, which happens first in the sequence of events? There is no question about what follows the other. This is not a question of sequence, right? So it cannot be C. Therefore, it cannot be D either. Definitely does not follow the first. Obviously, there is a relationship. So you cannot say that one does not follow. So it's not D, it's not C, because you're not talking about sequence of events which happened first. No. Now it's a bit tricky. Is it fully reinforce the first, or does it reinforce the first? Well, the good thing is that we have accepted the fact that it reinforces, right? So if you look at it, option A says that it fully reinforces. Statement 2 says that it reinforces the first to an extent, which means partially reinforces, right? So A says fully reinforce, fully support the statement. 2 says that it supports but not completely. Okay, so the good thing is that we know that statement number 2 does support statement number 1. That is clear, because do you remember what reinforces? Reinforces where you're coming up with a new information or a new statement that will support your older statement or the statement number 1. Okay, so we know it reinforces. Now the question is it fully or is it partially? Now here is the thing, if it has to be fully, it means whatever logic that is said in statement number 1 should be supported in statement number 2. Now here is where looking at mere grammar, or rather certain vocabulary, can save you with logic, right? See, if you look at it, statement number 1, as I told you, is a very strong statement. You're saying that it can never be predicted, which means for sure, regardless of the variables, regardless of how you understand the variable, the final outcome cannot be predicted. Okay, statement number 2, there is a slight change in tone. You're saying that all outcomes are based on variables. We know that variables that cannot always be fully understood. Cannot always be fully understood means sometimes you can understand the variables, sometimes you cannot understand the variables. Now, there is a slight change in tone, right? In statement number 1, you say that it cannot be predicted. Final outcome cannot be predicted. It's an absolute statement. Statement 2 says that it's true because you know what? Sometimes variables can be fully understood, sometimes it cannot be fully understood. Okay, so then there is a slight change. So therefore, it doesn't completely support the statement number 1, it partially supports. Okay, it kind of goes with what we are saying, but it's not a very foolproof statement. Okay, there is some other condition there. So therefore, you'll go with partially reinforces the first, or reinforces the first to an extent. To some extent, your statement 2 is helping my statement number 1, but there are some issues here and there. Therefore, we'll go with option B, not A. Is that clear? Because if it is fully reinforced, then it should not be cannot always be, it should be cannot be fully understood. Okay, if it is cannot be fully understood, we are good to go. But here that's not the case. Got it? I know it's a tricky question there because words can be a bit difficult to kind of navigate through. Yes. Let's look at question number 47 now. Easier ones, I think. Statement number 1 says, mastery over any art form requires years of dedication and perseverance. Okay, easy to understand. Statement 2, it takes 10,000 hours of practice to become an expert in a field. Fine. Let's see, let's connect it. Statement 2 says, it takes 10,000 hours of practice. You're talking about the time you require. Like, you have to work a lot to become an expert in a field. Now, I remember seeing a similar word in statement number 1, mastery over any art form. What do you mean by mastery? In other words, to be an expert. Okay, it is exactly the statement. Sorry. This is exactly this, right? To be an expert in any field requires years of dedication, which means 10,000 hours of practice and perseverance. So it's like you are somehow saying similar stuff in a different way. That is all. But you're talking about the same idea. So, in other words, is that a contradiction? No. Is that a contrast? No. Are they related or are they of the same family? Can we think about it like that? Statement number 1 and statement number 2 belongs to the same family? Yes. So, based on whatever little knowledge we have, let's see if we can figure out some of the wrong choices here. Is not consistent with the first. Obviously, it is consistent, right? Not. We are talking about similar things, right? Is it marginally consistent? Marginally consistent means times, okay, it's not completely consistent with the statement, light consistency. No, it is completely consistent, right? It is obviously saying the same stuff, right? Whatever points have been said in statement number 1 is what is said in statement number 2. There is no new idea that has not been fully expressed, nothing like that. Similar statements, okay? Now, here is the thing. B is fully consistent with the first. Okay, that sounds like the answer, but let's just have a quick look at B. Okay, is the only possible explanation for the first. Well, that itself should give it away. No, it's not the answer, because to say that that's a only possible explanation, so many things wrong with it. One, statement number 2 is not the explanation per se. Okay, it's not an explanation. You're not explaining what I said in statement number 1. Okay, not an explanation. 2, you're saying that it's the only possible explanation. No, there are many ways to say it. There are many ways to understand it. No, so it's not the only possible explanation. Based on all the problems there, that's not the answer. The answer is B. So 47, B is the answer. Okay, yes. Now let's look at question number 48. I think you're getting the hang of it now. Fine. Statement number 1, the beauty of India's democracy rests in the greatness of its constitution. Nice. Statement 2, the constitution of India upholds the collective values of country's civilizational ethos. Okay, let me read statement number 2. The constitution of India upholds the collective values of the country's civilizational ethos. Fine. Upholds, let me write it as carries, okay, or supports or something like that. So the statement 2 is about the constitution of India. Are we clear there? And you're saying good things about, positive things about the constitution of India. Statement number 1, the beauty of India's democracy rests in the greatness of its constitution. So you're saying that, you know why India's democracy is so beautiful? Because we have a great constitution. So if you think about it, this one also talks about India's constitution and how great it is, right? So both the statements talk about the greatness of India's constitution, and I understand that they are talking about similar things. They are not opposite, they are not contradictions, right? Based on my little knowledge there, let's see if I can eliminate any option. I don't know whether you can see it properly. Yeah, connects with the mention of India's democracy. Okay, some connection is there, so let's keep it there. Provides a reason, could be there, let's keep it there. Contradict, absolutely not. Has no connection with the first, absolutely not. You are saying there is a connection, right? The fact that you respect India's democracy is because India has a wonderful constitution. So there is a relationship. Now the question is it A or B? Let's look at A. Connects, true, with the mention of India's democracy in the first. First of all, you understood that the two sentence statements are about Indian constitution, not India's democracy, right? So therefore, I don't feel like that is the answer, but let's look at B. Provides a reason, right? It explains for the assertion. What do you mean by assertion? You made a statement, right? What is your statement? You said that India's democracy's beauty lies in the fact that it has got a wonderful constitution. Then you're explaining that statement. You made a statement, now you're explaining the statement. Why do we have a great democracy? Because we have got a great constitution. And why do I call my constitution so great? Because it upholds, it carries the collective values of the country's civilizational ethos. Therefore, it's an explanation for the statement that I made about the constitution of India, not the democracy of India. Therefore, such a wonderful explanation, it must be B, not A. Clear? Wonderful. And let's go to the last one. Statement number 1. Roseate is an adjective for the rose flower. Statement number 2. The rose is a powerful poetic symbol in many languages. Okay. Let me go to statement number 2. The rose is a powerful poetic symbol in many languages. Got it? Roseate is an adjective for the rose flower. So I feel like in both the statements, there is some reference to rose, right? I'm saying that roseate is an adjective based on the rose flower, and rose is a very powerful poetic symbol. These are the two things that you're saying. Based on this, I can be very sure of the fact that it is not contrast, right? It is not contrast. You're not talking about two opposite things which can exist together. They're nothing opposite here. It's not coincidence. It is never a coincidence. It is because rose is something important. That is why you're bringing roseate as an adjective there, right? So it is not a mere coincidence. Then you have expand or explicate. Well, if you know the meaning of explicate, then you know that that's not the answer. What do you mean by explicate? Explicate means to explain a sentence in detail. Okay? It explains the sentence in detail. Horrible handwriting there. Explains the sentence in detail. Do you think statement 2 explains statement number 1? No, they're talking about similar things. It's expanding on the idea about rose, roseate, how it's a powerful symbol. Therefore, the answer is A. 49, A is the answer. Clear? That was a very simple one. That's why I was very fast there. And last question, that's for you to do, but I'll make sure that I type down the answers in our comment box there. Okay, so have a quick look at it. Let me read the statements for you. The early bird gets the worm. To go out about one's task expeditiously is to achieve one's goals. Does the second statement make assertions about the first? Provides a metaphorical assertion of the first? Reinforces the assumption of the first? Contrasts with the first? Do not worry, take it slow, okay, and figure whether these statements contrast. Remember what I told you. Try to come up with the connection on your own. Based on the connection, try to eliminate at least two options, then look for keywords and you will be able to do it. And if you have to rephrase the sentence for your sake, thou must do it. Okay, and that's as simple as that. Do not worry, I'll write down the answers. Fine. So I hope you got some idea. Try to do one more question paper. Try to do more questions on verbal ability from any resources you have. Okay, that is all. If there's anything more, please let me know. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.